So welcome to section number 3 of part 4. This part is on professional conduct and conflict of interest. This is the other part that a lot of questions will come from, apart from section number 2. Okay, so here you would see something like this. There are several standards. So standard number 1 for section number 3.1, it says this: am aware of and discuss with all involved parties the implications of having multiple agreements and relationships and potential for conflict of interest. Okay, so this is something that you have to be very, very careful with, like any form of conflict of interest. Notice the keyword here. One is you are aware. And then second one is to discuss with all parties potential conflict of interest. Okay, so whether I'm using an AI tool, whether I'm a brand person for some other products. So today, some coaches, what they do is that they may be wearing a T-shirt that they're sponsored with, but they don't say I'm sponsored with this T-shirt, right? So it's important for me to let the clients know that whether I'm wearing something that's sponsored, something that I'm having some additional things that I'm involved in that may raise any potential conflict of interest. So something very important. 3.1. Okay, so for example, you're hired by a company to coach an executive, and you also know the HR socially, maybe your friend, maybe your drinking buddy, maybe your cinema movie buddy, right? And they have confided in you about wanting to replace the executive soon, and they request feedback. So now you're stuck. Do I go with my drinking buddy friend, or do I stay confidential with this person? What should I do? If I don't say anything, I may lose this coaching buddy friend. If I say something, then I'm in potential conflict of interest because I know things that this person doesn't know. Okay, so the big question is, are you willing to lose your friend to uphold certain ethical standards? Right? So some people tell me, so Jedi, if my friend leave me because of ethics, then they should not be my friend in the first place. So I'll leave them be. I'll go and find a new drinking buddy. Okay, so usually the best one is to clarify the nature of your relationship with each party. So this is the best ethical standard. So if in terms of first one, so clarify the nature, set the boundaries, and then avoid being stuck in the middle. So that's the best thing. Okay. So one of the best ways, especially when you're coaching, is if today you're coaching someone that you know, coaching becomes less effective. Just like if you're coaching your children, or if you're coaching someone very familiar with you, almost like a friend, a buddy, a best pal, it becomes very, very hard to coach that person. Okay, because objectively you are, to them in their eyes, they see you as a friend, a buddy, but then you're a role of a coach. So if you can separate the roles clearly, by all means, you can coach the person. Okay, so something very important for us to think about. So that's 3.1. 3.2 here. Manage conflict of interest and potential conflict of interest with coaching clients and sponsors through self-reflection, coaching agreements, and ongoing dialogue. This includes addressing organizational roles, responsibilities, relationships, records confidentially, and other reporting requirements. So here, it's how you manage them and potential. Okay, so when it happens and when it's about to happen. Okay, so how are you going to do that? So for example, you're coaching two team leads in the same organization. One of them begins to share confidential concerns about the other person. So putting you in this tight spot, they begin to tell you things, and then that influences your understanding, awareness of the other person. So what should you do? Okay, so how do you maintain neutrality? How do you maintain the unintended bias? So the important thing is that whatever that's shared with you, does it influence your biases? Does it influence your relationship with each other? So you see two words keep on repeating: the impact on relationship, the impact on your own personal biases as a result of conflict of interest. Okay, so something to think about as you prepare for this 3.2. Okay, now 3.3. Resolve any conflict of interest, potential conflict of interest, by working through issue with relevant parties, seeking professional assistance, or suspending or ending professional relationship. So here, 3.3 is about 3.3 is about managing, anticipating. 3.2, it's if it happens, how should you resolve it? So the first thing you want to do is resolve, and then working through the issue with them, and suspending or ending professional relationship if required. So here, you discover that your coaching client, who is your friend's partner, is also engaging in unethical practices. What should you do? Should you end it or not? Okay, so sometimes you may find out something from your client that you realize that the more you know, the more you put you in a very tight spot. As such, you either have to refer the person to someone else, or you may have to withdraw, or you may have to end that professional relationship for the sake of that friendship. So, which one would you want to give up? Okay, do you confront? Do you stay silent? Do you withdraw? How do you protect yourself from that? Okay, so for example, right, many lawyers you hardly see them online, or many judges you don't see them online, social media and stuff, to ensure impartiality, right? So because imagine if they go online, talk, then we may think that, oh, they are biased against one another. So judges tend to be more neutral, where they try not to have any social presence online at all. Okay, 3.4. Hold responsibility for being aware of and setting clear and appropriate and culturally sensitive boundaries that govern professional interactions, physical or otherwise. So here it's responsibility to, responsibility for. So who is responsible for which part of the entire ethical boundary process? So one, it's you as the coach have to hold the full responsibility of upholding the entire space. So you notice who is holding the coach, because you should be aware of all these things, right? So that means you should be aware of all the cultural sensitive stuff, the AI stuff, the technology stuff, or anything that comes into contact with this. And then you have to set the boundary. If it's not set, the responsibility is actually on you as the coach. So, for example, a client from a high context culture begins bringing you gifts, which is a cultural norm. Okay, so high context culture are Asian culture, right? So we tend to give gifts to people. So if I meet Fanny, I say, hey, Fanny, by the way, I just got this very nice TWG from Singapore, very delicious. Or got this laksa, very very nice. And so it's a norm to give that. Do you feel uncomfortable and unsure how to respond? Okay, so should I accept the gift? Should I not accept the gift? Well, in Asian culture, we tend to give something when we meet someone. Omiyages, gifts to another person, and that is the common practice. It's a form of greeting. So because it's a cultural norm, it's okay to accept the gift. But that's where you have to look at the nature of the gift, whether the gift has additional intentions or hidden intentions with that. Yeah. So sometimes something to think about as well, it's you could let the client know before accepting the client and say, hey, if you have any gifts and anything that you like to give me during our sessions, it's not that I don't want to receive them, but to maintain our relationship, I kindly request that no gifts. I prefer not to receive a gift. If you feel like you want to give me something, maybe just some food or some cookies, some cakes. That's fine. Right. So sometimes clients feel very sad if you don't allow them to give you gift. So then you can tell them what kind of gifts would you prefer. Yeah. And usually I would say the best one is probably just some food, snacks, okay, which is less, it will create less tension. If the client give you goba, right? So for example, if I meet Fanny and I say, oh, Fanny, hey, how are you today? Hey, this is a goba for you, welcome gift. Then that one is of too much of value. So usually food perishables will be a easier gift to accept than something that is more substantial, right? Like a car or something like that. Okay, so perishables will be a better gift to another person than none. Okay, so 3.4. 3.5. Maintains fairness by being aware of my biases, addressing them, so that I do not discriminate towards others based on race, color, gender identity, sexual orientation, socio-economic status, age, spiritual practice, ability, and other groups, classes, categories of human differences. Okay, so notice ICF had put so many things here. Okay, essentially it's whoever it is, but we're not going to discriminate anybody. Now, can we 100% not discriminate anyone? The answer is no. Because there will be people that we like more, there will be people we like less. Even if the person is operating normally. Because sometimes we may feel that I like someone who is more logical. I like someone who's more emotional. I like someone who's more articulate. I like someone who is more logical. But the clients that come to us sometimes might prick us on the wrong side. Sometimes the client come to us. Sometimes they may have the 操quan. Cao quan in English means they have that little irks in icks, that may kind of put you on a certain tension, right? So these are something to think about as well. Are you aware of your own biases? So as the role of a coach, how do I know my biases? Very easy. Whatever you get frustrated about, or whoever you get frustrated with, who tend to get frustrated with, or whoever your emotions tend to get shifted, or your thoughts tend to get shifted, or whoever that you show some reaction to, then your tendency to show reaction to. Okay, so that's where we are more biased to that individual. Guru.
Yeah. So, what if there are habits of the client that disturbs you? I mean, just not in the coaching session, but it has also come across sometimes when you meet somebody. I came across somebody who loves to bite their nails. And it's very distracting when you're talking to them. So something like that, how do you deal with it? Because when one way you don't want to have biases, but the other side is it's also distracting. So is it okay to let the client know? But then it's very hard because they're compulsive.
So that's a good question raised by Guru. If it's the client who has those habits that might be distracting to you as the coach, and you feel distracted. For example, sometimes clients may not be biting nails. Sometimes clients may be just looking away from you, and you feel distracted. Or sometimes clients may be looking at their phone, tapping on their phone, and you feel distracted. Or sometimes clients may be doing this, with their mouth, and you feel distracted by the sound. Now, all this, if we get irked by that, or if we get affected by that, we could ask ourselves a few questions. One, can I still maintain presence in that moment? Can I teach myself to still be adaptable, to be agile, to acknowledge that individuals like themselves have different quirks, irks, tics, or different gestures, movement habits, micro habits, just like I may have that I'm not aware of, that might be irking the other person. So as the role of the coach, then I ask myself, can I remain present? If I cannot remain present and it's very distracting to me, then what should I do next? Do I tell the person to change his habit? Or would it be a kinder thing to do to ask myself, maybe I need to refer that person to someone else who can better support that individual? So the better option would be, after one or two times, you realize you cannot really handle that, and because it's just, getting your mind very, very distracted from it. And so rather than confronting the person in a non-confrontational manner, if let's say you're in a culture that's non-confrontational, then I would advise to kind of invite another, refer the person to someone else, another coach who can better assist the person. Yep. So for example, sometimes some people may not like to deal with individuals who have, say, color hair, because they think that color hair is, it's not that thing. So they have their own personal biases as well. So something to think about. Or sometimes maybe some of us, we may not like to coach maybe someone who's too young, someone who's too old, someone of a different gender. Does it mean that I have to coach anybody? No, it just means that I'm aware of what I can or cannot do. And if a client of this category wants to come and find me, I have to let the client know that I may not be the best person to help them. Yeah. So for example, sometimes some of us may have trauma or childhood trauma from some incident, right? And then the client raised a topic to you, and it kind of trigger back those memories. So in order to honor the client's experience, then I have to let the client know, okay, I may not be the best person in this best position to coach you on this topic, but other topics it's able. But if you want to continue this topic, I may have to refer you to someone else who can better support you in this.
Sorry, Jedi, one more thing on the online session. This has actually happened to me once. And this happened with the youth. So in the coaching session, it was supposed to be one-on-one. Somebody else was in the room. I can't see the second person, but I can literally hear some background noises. When I asked the client, he said, "No, it's only me." But I can see the client's eye contact, deferring to the person in the room, and there is something going on, And a couple of questions again, they claim that no one else and I'm alone. The reason I felt was because that was distracting me and the client, So here is a situation where the client says there is nobody in the room, I'm alone. But it's very evident that he is not. What do you do?
So I just take it as whatever you say is true. That really maybe it's not anybody. Maybe it's my imagination that there's someone that's there. So even if I have 100% evidence that there's someone there, right? But I'll just take him at his word. And after knowing that I'm observing him or her or they are getting distracted, then I would let the person know. I say, hey, I'm observing a little that they seem a bit distracted today. Would you still like to continue today's session, or would you like for us to close today's session and then set up the next call when you feel more rested, when you feel more focused for the session?
This is more so in the case when the client has been sponsored. When the client is not, when you are, the client is being sponsored by somebody to do that, and then that this client is not 100%.
So then I'll go back to the coaching agreement, which is at the start of the coaching agreement, have I addressed these potential areas? So for example, what I do with youth as well, because I know that they have a lot of friends, they have chats, I may be coaching them up virtually, they have like 10 windows, looking at 10 windows, playing a game, talking to me, and but that's them. So one way is that I'd be very hard on them. Stop everything, off everything, just focus on me, right? So the confines or the agreement of how I set it up, or the boundaries of how I set it up, will be important. If it impacts you as you're watching him and you realize that it's not really telling you the thing, then you can highlight to him and say, it looks like you're there's someone there with you, or it feels like that you're being distracted by something that's there. Can I just clarify? Would you need some time to go and address that before being present here? So I can hold the ground, and if I notice that it crosses the line a few more times, then I may let the person know that, say, hey, remind him of that agreement. That means the sponsor is paying this thing, and there's a certain outcome that we're trying to drive at. If it continues to persist, I may need to bring the sponsor into this call to just clarify here.
The reason I also asked is because if there is someone else in the room, then there is a problem with confidentiality in that discussion, you see. And that's where it's a bit iffy, because it's not about the distraction part. Even if you come over it, there's always that back of the mind that somebody may be listening in and recording and saying something. It's it's not confidential discussion anymore.
Yep. Well, it's inevitable, especially when you're doing online coaching sessions as well. So for example, for youth, usually I will highly encourage, if possible, it's in person. Because their learning styles or learning behaviors, we know that they get distracted very, very easily, and if you do it online, they are more than likely to be multitasking with many things. Because if we are the one doing it, can you imagine they're doing it much more? So I would usually recommend in person. But if in person is impractical or impossible, then we have to set some measures for them to be able to do it. Yeah. So either we say, hey, during our session, I'll encourage you just, if you have no virtual background, that's great. Then we can see each other better. Yeah. So again, this is how you will set up for your own coaching practice, whatever that would honor the client's experience and also the sponsor's expectation as well. If it repeats too many times, then we need to bring the sponsor in to have a tripartite session to talk about, how do we set the core discipline. Yep. Okay. So this may happen for different clients, and it doesn't happen just for youth. It also happens for adults as well, especially when they're sponsored by companies. Because some of them may not take it seriously. Because they will feel that, hey, the company pay ma, so I don't have to really put in all my effort into that coaching conversation. Yeah, then they may be distracted in doing other things. So they're not fully present in that moment. So usually we'll say, hey, okay, before we start the session, I'll encourage you 5 minutes before, 10 minutes before, try not to do anything, go to the toilet, freshen up yourself, be present so that we can go into the conversation itself. Okay, so good question by Guru. Okay, so here, very, very important on the biases. So the topic can come out with a lot of different possible scenarios of different biases that we see in ourselves and in others. What should we do, right? So again, the keyword here is the fairness. Yeah, fairness about that. And if I cannot, I may need to refer the person to someone else who to address that particular topic. Okay. Yep. Now, sometimes because we're so familiar with our own culture and the way we tend to speak or the way we tend to come across, we don't realize that our culture may be imposing on the other person. Yeah. Especially for those individuals who have very, very strong mental models or very strong fixed mindsets because they believe life is like this. Life is like that. For example, they believe in Maslow hierarchy of needs. We do survival, da 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 da. Okay, so they have a very, very fixed system in their mind. So they believe that the world is like that. So if you have a very strong fixed mental model of the world or work or career or leadership, then we have to be very, very careful that our own mindset does not interfere with the biases that I may be hearing from the person, right? Or I may discriminate the people based on my own internal mental model as well. So today, a lot of coaches learn many different mental models, or they have learned many mental models from leadership, organization learning development, or they may learn different frameworks. So some coaches will tell me, "Oh, I believe in values framework. I believe in this framework. I believe in that framework. I believe in this one or this philosophy or that philosophy." Their own mental model becomes a discrimination towards the other person. Yeah, and they don't realize that that's happening to them. Okay, so something to think about as well when we are kind of dealing with that. So how do we develop this? The best way to develop this further is to speak with more people who are very different from you. That way, it will give you better understanding of another person, right? So if you have children with you, talk to them. Try to understand the world from their lens. Yeah, not their world from my lens, but their world as if you are them in their lens. Yeah, so that will give you a better awareness. And that's one of the reasons why I have this WhatsApp group for cross-cultural coaching. So for those of you who want to coach across different cultures, I welcome you to join it, to kind of practice coaching with across different cultures. Okay, good. 3.6. Am mindful of the level of intimacy in the coaching relationship. Very important. Okay. I do not participate in any sexual romantic relationship with clients or sponsors. If I detect a shift in a relationship, I take appropriate action to address the issue or cancel the coaching agreement. Otherwise, I'll be in the same situation as co-play. Yeah. Okay. So we have to avoid that totally. Yeah. So sometimes, maybe during the session, you may not fall in love with the person, but the other person fall in love with you. Okay, so we have to also be mindful. If we notice there's a little shift, then to protect the sanctity and the spirit of coaching, then I mean, let the person know. I say maybe a different coach may be better for you. So this is also a scenario may come up as well, where say, where's the best place to coach? In a closed confined space where confidentiality is there, or in an open space. So for men coaching women, I would say the best to do is in an open space. Okay, so like a public space, public cafe, right? In case of any potential conflict. So that's usually I would say do that. For coaching of minors as well, do it in a place where also has a certain degree of honoring the person and avoiding any form of conflict. Okay, anything that people can say about you or any others. Right. So something also to be mindful of. Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. 3.7. Understand that ICF professionals often serve in multiple professional roles based on your prior training experience or expertise, such as a mentor, therapist, leader, HR specialist, assessor, etc. And it is my responsibility to disclose to the client when I'm acting in the capacity other than the role of a ICF professional coach or a coach. Right. So if I'm not operating from the lens of a coach, then I could let the client know that I'm now operating as a trainer, as an assessor, as a leader, as a boss, as a subordinate, as a peer. So I need to let the person know as well. Okay, good. This also applies because sometimes we may be doing a 360 debrief, or maybe we're doing a IDP or IDAP. So IDP is like a performance appraisal, feedback, development plan with the individual. So so sometimes we may need to give some advice or mentoring. Then if we're switching to the mentoring head, then we need to let the person know now we're going to enter the mentoring head. But as a mentor, can I still be a coach-like mentor? You can. So I can have a coach-like conversation with the person, but still as a mentor. Yeah, I can be a trainer, but a coach-like trainer. That means I'm using coaching skill sets, but functioning the role of a mentor or a therapist or a trainer. Okay, so 3.7. 3.8, disclose to the client the information of compensation and benefits that have been paid or received or will be paid or received for referrals. Now, this is important because sometimes some coaches, they get kickbacks. So, very, very important. Let the client know if there's any monetary benefits or referrals from this, because one of the big things in the disclosure as well, it's because of all these kickbacks, the client may feel that, wow, okay, they feel obliged to continue with this coach. Yeah. Okay, so this is very, very important. So for example, you recommend a team coaching certification program to your client, and because you're an affiliate partner, you receive some kickback, like 10%, 20%, 30% enrollment fee, right? So even though you're not a trainer, but you get some kickback. So just like I know today some coaches are also financial advisors, or their friends are financial advisors, or property agents, or whichever, or affiliate partners. And they say, oh, by the way, you can consider taking some of this with me. I'm also a life coach. By the way, I'm also a finance coach, and I'm also a finance advisor, so I can do all this for you. So essentially, there's a big conflict here, because there'll be a certain kickback that may happen. Okay, so whatever we do, 3.8 in essence is we want to do it to the highest level of standards. If there's any monetary terms that's not disclosed, I need to let the client know. Okay. Yep. Okay, good. Any questions here? 3.1 to 3.8. Guru.
Sorry, I have a few questions that I've been noting down. So I'm going to go back to the previous part as well included. So because we have so many things that is going on technology, it's better to put in a clause in the coaching agreement which says that, we use technology platforms, third-party services, data being stored in third-party, and let the client know beforehand, so that you kind of have an umbrella cover to say that, because you cannot go back and ask for each and every tools and technology. So just put a clause in the coaching agreement, say that we use XYZ services and this may happen, we may use third party. If they sign off on the coaching agreement, you're kind of covering yourself. So that's something can be done, right?
You could do that. But again, it's not just consent, it's informed consent. So what some coaches do is that they may have a huge, like 10 pages worth of agreements, of everything to cover every single thing. And they just make the client sign. But most of us, we don't read the terms and conditions. So informed consent means this: even though you sign, I will tell you exactly the key points. Right? I'll be recording this, I'll be capturing this data. So I know you can read it by yourself, but I want to point out some things for you in this consent or in this agreement that's of importance, that I feel is of importance for you to be aware of. So then I highlight the certain points within this 3, 4, 5, 10 pages document in terms of the agreement.
Yeah. A lot of the privacy agreements that we sign, if you see, they push the onus of taking responsibility on the user. So what I'm trying to do is kind of taking some of that and putting it on the client and saying that, because ultimately we are all linked by the service providers, So as much as just now you said Otter uses a third-party platform and they are putting it on the user, on their client, and not taking any responsibilities or liabilities, in a way, we need to draft a clause in the coaching agreement that also protects us to a certain extent, if not comprehensively. So that's my point, limited point. Yeah.
Mm.
So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. Second thing is we just spoke about, coaching minors and coaching women, men. Uh, we do online recording. So we could potentially record sessions, because I know even counseling does record. With consent, you could record a coaching conversation, which kind of provides you certain protections.
Mhm.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and I guess then the question is, what do you do with the recording, how long you keep it, and all that will also be need to be
Mhm.
covered. The third thing, last thing that you spoke about is interesting, because you're talking about a coach introducing another service
Mm.
to the client,
To sell the client.
to which he is not giving the service himself,
Mm.
but he's going to be compensated for that.
Mhm.
And you say that he needs to disclose that to the client, saying that, hey, I'm referring you this service provider, and if you use them, I'm going to be compensated for that service, right?
Yes.
Now, if the person does not disclose it, does it mean that they are contravening any ICF ethics?
Yes, in 3.8. So they will have an ethical violation of 3.8, which means the client or the people who finds out, they can lodge a report to ICF, and their credentials may be at risk of being revoked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Understood.
Yep. So today we have this thing very popular, is what we call affiliate marketing. Yeah. So for example, if I author or some of the AI platforms, the reason why a lot of coaches ask me, Jedi, can you recommend any? And I choose not to recommend any, because today a lot of the platforms have a affiliate link. So if you click on that, you sign up, I get a kickback, then which puts me in a very difficult situation. Yeah, so I say you go and Google, you can find out which one it is, right? Because if I share with you the link, then you get my affiliate link, and then you sign up, I get paid for it, and then it'll be a conflict.
In my industry,
Mhm.
so this happened to me in the previous organization. I started a leadership advisory service, and so we take external partners who we bring in as advisors in our platform. So they are actually have a contract with us as advisors, and so whenever we need some leadership coaching or succession planning and things like that, I would introduce that service, right? So these are qualified people, and vice versa. They would sometimes recommend us clients of theirs who are leaders, for whatever purpose that we need to provide a service. So this is very gray area, because it's I scratch your back, you scratch my back kind of an arrangement. And the client may say, okay, I'm fine with it. So it's a very gray area,
Yeah, especially for many of the Asian businesses, a lot of things are just done verbally. Hey, you help me lah, I help you, even though it's not really said. Then again, it goes back to who would uphold the highest level of ethics consideration, which is you, the coach. So even though maybe it's permissible by ICF, but then something that you need to think about is, what is the best way to uphold the highest level of standards for myself and for the client. Right. Some coaches, they will hold it to the T, and then they will say, okay, I'm not going to breach that. Some coaches, because it's not really explicitly stated in the standards, so they maneuver within that gray zone. Right. If it's not comfortable for you, then I would say, okay, go to the highest level of ethics. Right. So what may be permissible may not be acceptable for not everyone as well. So something to think about. As a close, I want to bring everyone to this recent. I'm not sure if all of you heard about Disney Plus. This was a very big lawsuit brought against Disney Plus, because they have many micro terms and condition. A little bit like what Guru said, I put a lot of terms and condition inside. And then Disney Plus say that we did no wrong. Everyone agreed to the signing of it. Right? They agreed to the signing of the terms and condition. But they lost in the court, because the court found them to put such a laborious, lengthy terms and condition where nobody in the right mind will actually read through everything, right? So then after that, the U.S. Senate, and they passed this Fair Act where they talk about sometimes having all that long statements doesn't mean that necessarily it can be fully enforceable in the court of law. Okay, so if you guys get time, go and read the Disney Plus case. I think it's a very, very useful case for practice, especially for ethics as well. Okay, good. So we ran out of time for today, but thank you everyone for participating for today's session. I know there's a lot of areas we're covering. In the next session, we're going to go straight into a rapid round of the questions from section 3. Very intense. Section 4 and 5 is the easiest. Again, nothing much in section 4 and 5, but 3 and 2 are one of the hardest ones. Okay, so good. Thank you, everyone. I know it's not easy, and especially after work, everyone will be very tired. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll see all of us in the next session.